Preaching is considered necessary for salvation by Jehovah's Witnesses, and only those doing all they can will ensure their survival in the soon-to-come Armageddon. Let's look at some of the terminologies in Jehovah's Witness preaching and compare them with the Bible. Now let's start at the bottom. Unbaptized publisher. This is someone who qualifies by meeting elders in the congregation who may say they may take part in the Jehovah's Witness ministry. Neither of these are in the Bible. Not just the word unbaptized, but the concept. I mean, if we take a biblical phrase like evangelizer, where does it talk about an unbaptized evangelizer, or that he or she would meet with elders to qualify to be a minister? Of course that's not in the Bible. It's not just the word that we're having a problem here with. It's the concept. It's how one qualifies. They're not in the Bible. Of course, next on the tier, publisher. This is your average witness who reports his hours in his ministry to headquarters through the service overseer, as all do. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses, it should be noted, are a little peculiar in that their membership is counted from members reporting hours to headquarters, not just locally, but to the headquarters. If a Jehovah's Witness, no matter if he retains the beliefs of the Watchtower, he will not be counted as a member if he does not report his hours. He may believe in Jehovah and say his name all the time, but that's not good enough to be counted as a publisher. And there's always these loving provisions that are constantly lowering the hour requirement. Basically now, if you just say Jehovah in the grocery store, you can count your time for that month, brother. These are, of course, loving provisions. Now, before we get into the rest of the hierarchy, this brings us to our biggest point when concerning preaching. Remember, everything's in the Bible. Where in the Bible are Christians told to count hours, books, brochures, etc., etc., and hand them to the congregation in Jerusalem? Now, Jehovah's Witnesses like to pretend that it's for organizational purposes, which may be true, but it's deceitful too, because it's not the whole truth. It's a half-truth. The very thing they accuse their opponents of, whether or not it's used to help the organization organize where the needs greater or so and so, it is also used to judge the spirituality of others, is it not? True or false? Want to be appointed an elder, a ministerial servant? Go to Bethel? It is impossible without the unscriptural practice of Jehovah's Witnesses looking at the hour one spends spreading the Watchtower message. The more one does, the more spiritual they are perceived, and every Jehovah's Witness knows it. What about auxiliary pioneers, regular pioneers, special pioneers? Okay, well, you're just playing with words. Those are just words. We just call them something different now. Okay, so where in the New Testament do we have auxiliary evangelizers, regular evangelizers, special evangelizers? All of these have various hour requirements and benefits with them, as well as privileges, as it's called, little perks. This creates a hierarchical system of preachers, each feeling the other is more spiritual, closer to God, and more likely to survive Armageddon. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses are told that none of these are proper titles, but those are just words. In Watchtower culture, they have great importance. For instance, if it's so meaningless, why is there a pioneer infirm list, where some who qualify because of age can maintain the title pioneer without fulfilling the hour requirements? If it's not a title, why does such a thing exist? Or how come every so often the hour requirements are lowered so others who can't normally have the privilege of being called pioneer for the month? After all, it's not a title, is it? It's not a title on paper, but it sure is in the everyday life of a Jehovah's Witness. Some of you heard a governing body member gave an experience once in the April 2019 Jehovah's Witness broadcast. He gave a an experience where he showed up at a Kingdom Hall one day, and two young brothers met him, and he had to go through the list, right? Because he was trying to shame them. He says, were they elders? No. Were they ministerial servants? No. Were they regular pioneers? No. Now, why would he go through that list if those were all just brothers? He did it because he knows, like all Jehovah's Witness knows, it's a tier of spirituality. And his point was, you see, these young pre-teens that, I didn't say they were baptized or not, but they weren't. These spiritual giants were the ones meeting us. Now, that story has no effect if they're all just brothers. Now let's get back to counting time. Just because the book of Acts reports two instances to show the numbers baptized, was anybody spiritually judged by it? No. These two instances does not give the Watchtower license for the unscriptural practice of counting time and judging one's relationship by God by it. And of course we'll have much more on this later. So, when it comes to how Jehovah's Witnesses organize their ministry, they are completely beyond the things written, aren't they? This is obvious. Now, my point is not to be fickle about words, but remember, Jehovah's Witnesses boastfully claim that they do everything by the Bible. And further, this unbiblical practice of reporting hours is how one views their spirituality, their relationship with God. In fact, this concept is central to a Jehovah's Witness life. Hour counting, magazine counting, all are not in the Bible. And this is central to a Jehovah's Witness life. I can remember the times going counting time, how to count time. And I need to get more time. Can you come with me? I gotta get more time. It really takes away from, the spirit of evangelizing. When it comes to how Jehovah's Witnesses preach, the work is done. It is not in the Bible. It is not biblical. The fact that you preach and they preach does not give license for the way they judge people's spirituality.